Good morning everybody and welcome back to another video. It's actually the afternoon, so good afternoon everybody. I just recorded all of this once already and the bloody microphone seemed to have been spazzing me out and had a load of static in the background, so now it's a second attempt. Before all of you start crying in the comments and complaining, you know, you complained about the XM-1, why is there one sat in your hangar? Well, I had some spare money, to be quite honest, and I wasn't planning on buying this tank. I know I said just the other day that I wasn't going to buy it, but here's the thing. Curiosity killed the cat. That's the famous saying. I was curious, and so I decided to give it a go. I had some spare money lying around, and as you can see, I actually do not have any tanks that I could use for grinding out rank 6 for the Americans. This is why I don't play the Americans very much. This is why I don't upload footage of the Americans very much to my channel. Hopefully with this thing that will change that, and I'll be able to get some footage up of these once I've, you know, unlocked, researched and bought them. So let's crack on with this thing, shall we? This tank, the XM-1 General Motors, gets the 105mm M68 cannon. This is similar to the Abrams' M68A1. It also gets a 12.7mm 50 caliber M85 machine gun, as well as a M60D, which is 7.62, up here on the hatch at the top on the roof of the tank. That is, well, the Americans in Vietnam refer to it as the pig because it was a bastard to heap lump about the place, especially through the middle of jungles in Southeast Asia. However, on the top of a tank it works perfectly fine. You also get the M240 machine gun. This is not the M240B, it's just the M240, although I'm not sure there's much difference between the two, but somebody will definitely tell me that there is. The turret rotation speed on this thing is 30.3 degrees per second, which is hilariously fast. 10 degrees of gun depression, 15 of elevation. The elevation is not brilliant. Most tanks are normally 20 or, well, roughly 20 degrees of elevation. But in my opinion, depression is far more valid than elevation, but that's just me. A reload rate of 7.8 seconds, nice and speedy considering the fact it doesn't have an autoloader. The crew are 4 in number because, as I said, it doesn't have an autoloader, so you have the loader as well as the driver, commander and the gunner. You have a mass of 52.6 tons. This is a big tank, as it should be because it's a main battle tank after all, but it also has a 1521 horsepower engine. If I was to sum this thing up in a sentence, it's an Abrams in the sense of the gun and the mobility, but without the armour, but we'll get onto that in a minute. This thing will do, according to the stat sheet, 83 kilometers an hour. That's a lie. The most I've gotten out of this tank is 55 on, you know, cross-country sort of terrain, grasses, fields, mud, etc. It will do more going downhill, maybe 60, 65. I've yet to see 83 though. Maybe on tarmac going down a reasonably steep hill, but not with the standard, you know, not as it is anyway. I haven't done that. So let's have a look at the armour. There we go, right. So, commander's hatch, the driver's hatch, sorry, is 38.1. Top of the tank, well, top of the hull, 38.1. Frontal plate, 36.2. Same on the bottom, 76 there, 38, 38. Have some nice side skirts, which are 50, bloody hell, composite side skirts. 50.8, I should say. And then homogeneous plates on the side is 6.35. Now let's see if I can get this. I had a bastard doing this the first time. Come on. Actually, there is a way of seeing the armour, but I can't quite get it right. Come on. There we go. See what I mean? It's really fiddly. 20mm. No. Come on. 31.75. There we go. Just got it. Right. So the turret, 38.1. Little bit of 4mm box there for some added extra protection. The rear, 31.75. Rear of the turret, 25.4. Top of the tank, 25.4 there as well, with 5mm engine vents. It's 12.7 there, 25.4 there. The armour is, how can I put this? A bit lackluster, really. If it was the armour of an Abrams, it'd be incredibly unfair. I mean, it's unfair anyway. People shouldn't be able to just buy their way to tier 5. I said this with my rant video, which I realise and I know full well was completely over the top It was a knee-jerk reaction to a situation that I thought was completely ridiculous. I still do think it's ridiculous. That hasn't changed. But I'm an older man now. You know, only like a month older or so, but older is still older. And therefore I am a month wiser. And as a result, I'm a little bit more chilled out about the idea now. I still don't think it's a good idea. I still don't like the fact that Gaijin actually did it. Although the backlash was so extreme that in the grand scheme of things, my rant video, even though it got 4,000 views, it still more or less, I think, is a drop in the ocean in comparison. I know I looked at it again the other day for the first time since I uploaded it, pretty much, and noticed that roughly it was 52 likes and 52 dislikes. So not all of those people are going to be subscribers, obviously, which is perfectly fine. There was 4,000 people that watched that video. Even one person who had the delightness to tell me that they watched the first 10 seconds and then turned the video off. And looking back on it, that video does not give newcomers to my channel a good impression of the sort of person I am, let alone the sort of content creator for War Thunder that I am, let alone YouTuber. I love doing this, and the last thing I want to do is drive people away, but at the same time, I'm not going to take to be blunt, I'm not going to take a fucking load on the face from Gaijin and just stand there and smile about it. So anyway, so you do get composite armour on this tank, surprisingly enough. It's the same on the turret as it is on the hull. I do not know what nearer is. I mean, it's nearer on the turret, but it's not nearer on the hull. But it's air as opposed to, I think nearer is kind of like these lines here. That's the nearer, I think. I think it's kind of like a composite, like what the Russians used, where it's a mixture of synthetics, rubber, plastic, and metal, like blended together. But in the case of the stuff on the hull, it is just basically steel plates with 300mm of air in between. This will help no end, I think, in dealing with heat rounds, but I haven't had heat fired at me at all in this thing yet. I've only ever been taking hits from Sabo, which is what you'd expect at top tier. You do also have an ammo rack in the rear of the turret. I do not know if this thing has blowout panels. I don't think it does. I haven't experienced an ammo rack detonation where I've survived yet, so if I do find that out, then I will let you know in one video or another. But for the time being, just take it as a no, it does not. The engine and transmission obviously being in the rear. So let's just quickly look at the modifications, and then we will jump into the match. Everything is researched when you get the thing, obviously, because it's premium. There is only one of these rounds that you will be using, and that is the Sabo. 355mm of pen at 100 meters, going down to 300 at 2000, and then 166mm of pen on a 60-degree angle at 100 meters, going down to 140 at 2000. This thing does not get smoke screens of any description, doesn't get smoke launchers, and it doesn't get the ESS. So it may be worth taking some smoke shells. It entirely depends on how you want to play it. The heat round is quite good, but let's be fair, you should be firing Sabo at this BR really. And that Sabo is utterly terrible, so we'll just ignore that. Right, let's jump into the gameplay footage then, shall we? So here we are with the gameplay section of this review. Now this is obviously on the folder map, which is quite fitting, I suppose. It's an American tank, but here's the problem. Well, one of the few problems that I've had with this tank so far. The matchmaking. Now I knew full well when this thing come out that it was going to completely balls up the matchmaker to such an extent that I may have had to stay away from top tier for a while. It's not quite that bad, although I did get into a match where the matchmaking completely shit the bed and decided it was going to put me into a game where it was everybody v everybody. Everybody versus everybody. Every nation versus every nation, which I thought was a bit strange. That's a very... It felt like old realistic battles. Like, do you remember, anybody else remember when all realistic really was it was arcade without a damage, or no, without a aiming indicator. That's all it was. You still had the names above the enemy players. It felt really weird though. It really did feel weird. So that was the first issue I ran into. The second issue I ran into is the fact that you barely ever fight T-64Bs, or T-64s of any description, or the Russians even. Most of the time I've been fighting the Germans and the Japanese, which Doesn't sound like a terrible thing, apart from the fact that their tanks are also very, very mobile, so you can't really use your mobility to your advantage anymore, where you would be able to do that if you're fighting the T-Series Soviet tanks. In theory, there's nothing wrong with that, it's just it feels kind of limited because you can't go head to head with them, you can't flank around them, and if you do, you'll run into something on your flank, I guarantee it, because they're all more, if not as mobile as you are. The Leopard 2K especially, I haven't played the 2A4 yet, so I can't say. It is very, very strange. No, I do not know what happened to that shot. The Leopard is still alive, and the shell just went straight through him. Always love it every time Gaijin releases a new patch. They always release a load of bugs as well. Love it when that happens. It also happens again here, look, watch. Yep, hit marker, but the shell just didn't do anything, I don't think. And then he gets taken out. Great, thanks for that, Gaijin. This thing makes a crazy amount of research and lions, which is good, considering it doesn't cost a hell of a lot to have the thing repaired. It only costs 2,300 or so, which is basically nothing. That definitely needs to go up. As much as I'll enjoy it while it lasts, I do insist that they put the repair cost of this thing up, because it's just encouraging people to spam top tier in the XM1s. I can't say how this thing compares to the XM-1 Chrysler because I will never own it and I will never play it because I'm on PS4. The PC players may be able to say what it's like because they will encounter them. I will not. I will never encounter Xbox players. It's just a fact. I kind of think that's a shame, personally. It would be nice to have cross-platform between all three platforms, but that's not the case because I imagine it's probably Sony stamping their feet and refusing to move on any decision that they make once again. Anyway, we're getting a bit sidetracked here. So, as I have stated in the past, I am not a fan of what this vehicle stands for. Nevertheless, as I said, I wanted to see how it actually played, and I needed a top tier grinder for the Americans if I'm ever going to get the Abrams anytime soon. And I do want the Abrams. It's a fact. As I also said in the hangar, this thing is effectively an Abrams without any armour. It's got the same gun, more or less. It's got the same speed, more or less, and manoeuvrability. The whole rotation speed on this thing is just insane. It just, like that, it just rotates. It's brilliant. I'm not used to it. I've been playing... There you go, look at that. The Challenger is the closest I can think of, and even the Challenger does not compare to that. I'm too used to playing my Soviet tanks, the T-64A and the T-64B, and the BV, now that I've basically got it. I did get the modification for that tank. There will be a video coming up on it at some stage. Spoiler, it's not as impressive as you may hope it is, but moving on again. This tank was not as expensive as I thought it was going to be, and as I've said in the past, my premium vehicle review videos are not to tell you whether to buy something or not, most of the time. In this case, I kind of discourage you from buying this thing if you don't absolutely need it. Like I said, I needed it, and I wanted to buy it anyway because then I can do a video on it like I am now and give my opinion to you guys so that you can decide whether you want to buy it or not. I do of course realise that in the grand scheme of things my channel is tiny, and my subscribers are more or less likely to be subscribed to much bigger YouTubers than I am, and they will have had this thing the day it come out. So you'll already know if you wanted to buy it or not. You will have already bought it if you wanted to, so I may be a bit late in this regard, but at least I tried, right? This thing cost me £40. For the £40 you also get the tank, you get some premium time, which I think is 2 weeks, 14 days, I think, and 2,000 golden eagles, which I have not spent yet, and I have no intention on spending them anytime soon, purely because I don't need to. If I decide, I might save them for when I get my Abrams or when I get my T-62M. When I unlock those vehicles, I may decide to free XP my way through the fire extinguisher and the repair kit, but that's it, just to give myself a little bit easier grinding time. Of course, normally I wouldn't do that, but if I have the Eagles, why wouldn't I? I'm not a fan of this tank personally. I think what it stands for is terrible, but anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.